And thanks for joining me as always on this Friday. It is very much appreciated. Hopefully, you are surviving this weather. Hopefully, it gets a little bit better later on today so we can start enjoying our weekend. We have a lot to get to. We will get to the latest on the draft. But first, a Tom Brady update. I would not have predicted this on April 12th, 2024, that we would be giving you a Tom Brady update because Tom is talking. He was on the Deep Cut podcast, and he was asked if he would pick up the phone for a team such as the 49ers. Brady then mentioned the Patriots, the Raiders, before saying the following, quote, "I'm not opposed to it. I'm always going to be in good shape, always be able to throw the ball. So to come in for a little bit, like MJ coming back, I would not be opposed to it." And social media went crazy. The world went bananas. People started losing their minds. Patriots fans, some of them started to do cartwheels in Foxborough. Tom Brady could be coming back. Tom Brady wants to come back. Tom Brady mentioned the Patriots. A message to those people and everybody else. Settle down. Settle down. Andrew Callahan wrote this yesterday. If/when Brady becomes a minority owner, he no longer can play. Under current league rules, NFL players, like all non-family club employees, are not allowed to own equity in teams. It's possible owners could vote on a rule change, but that would also require approval from at least 24 of 32 owners. Ipso facto, it ain't happening. So ESPN can throw up all the statistics of Tom Brady's career that they want. The NFL Network can start going crazy and get pumped and jacked about this idea of Brady returning to the NFL. Patriots fans can dream. Raiders fans can dream. Niners fans can think, hey, man, if Brock Purdy doesn't work out, why not Tom freaking Brady? Everybody just settle down. He's in the middle of a process of trying to own a piece of the Raiders. If that happens, he can't play. And I don't think any owner, do you think any owner of any other team is going to okay this idea where guys can own the team and play? No way, no freaking how. Think about how many people started to talk about Caleb Williams when Williams' dad asked certain agents that he spoke with if Caleb Williams could get a slice of ownership. No owner in the league would be willing to give a player part ownership. Not while they're playing. Opens Pandora's box. Every single contract negotiation would be that person saying, hey, can I get a slice of the team? Hey, can I get 10%? I had this crazy idea, but maybe it's not too crazy. Can I be a minority owner? Like every top player, every quarterback, every franchise QB1 would be asking that of their owner. It's not going to happen. It can't happen right now. So let's just stop. Now, I also got to say this because I've seen a lot of people say this would be a no-brainer for the Patriots. Maybe I am in the minority. Maybe the vast, vast, vast majority of people love this idea of Brady coming back to the Patriots. But honestly, it's time for the young gun. This is about the future, folks. It's not about bringing Tom Brady onto a team and hoping that he can get you to 8 or 9 wins. It's not about that. It's about the beginning of a rebuild. It's about bringing youth in. It's about drafting a young quarterback, whether it's this year or next year, that you believe is the future of this franchise, that you can build off of the next 10, 12, 15 years. That's what it's about. You know, this nostalgia of Brady. Like, we all love Brady. He's going to be 47 years old in August. And I know the last time we saw him, he looked great. Awesome. He was 45. 45 to 47 is a monstrous drop when you talk about a professional athlete. The guy is 47 years old. He hasn't played a snap of football in more than a year. And we're actually sitting there saying, oh, it would be a no-brainer. This would be so easy. It'd be so easy. At 47 years old, he takes one hit. Is he done? Can he throw the football 45 times a game? Even for 3 weeks to a month? I mean, it's I understand that the last time we saw Brady, he played well. And I understand that a lot of people have this thought that he can play forever. He can play until he's 50. But why would a 4-win team, even if it was possible, which I just told you it's not possible. If Brady becomes minority owner of the Raiders, it's not possible. League rules, he can't play. But even under the premise that he was able to play, the hypothetical that he was capable of playing, right? That the league allowed him to play. He's 47 years old. It's not a fait accompli that he's going to be able to play at a high level or really well until he's 50. So, I mean, what are we doing? It's like this old relationship, man. It's the nostalgia. It's like if you had a girlfriend or a boyfriend back in high school or college, and when you think about that person nowadays, you think about how it was great back then, the best moments of the relationship. But things change. You can have those memories of the best times, but you have to appreciate the current reality. And the current reality is Brady's going to be 47. You're coming off of a 4-win season. You're in the middle of a complete rebuild. What are we doing? The answer is a 47-year-old quarterback. As much as I love Tom and as much as he did for this team in this area, like, it's just, that's the answer. That's what we want because his name is Tom Brady. Brady threw this out there and people are running with it. And they're acting as if this would be, oh, it's a no-brainer. I would love it. I would 100% be for Brady coming into New England. It really doesn't make much sense with where the current team is. Even in that dream world where he could play, it doesn't make much sense. All right, couple more thoughts on this. Then we're going to move to draft rumors because there's a lot of stuff out there, rumors, reports, including the Patriots reportedly being very interested in an offensive tackle. Very, very interested. We'll get to that coming up in a little while. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up, like the program, subscribe as well. Every single thumb means an awful lot to us. That's how we beat the YouTube algorithm. Rate and review on Spotify and Apple Pods. Brady mentioning the Patriots, by the way, I kind of just took that as him being nice. Like, do you think that 47-year-old Brady would be willing to play behind this current offensive line? Brady back in 2019 didn't want to play for that offense. I mean, do you think he'd want to just jump in and work with somebody he's never worked with, Alex Van Pelt? Do you think he'd be jumping for joy with this Chuck Okorafor at left tackle current plan right now? Do you think he'd look at this wide receiver group and say, man, I can't wait to play with KJ Osborne? That's my dream. Yeah, Randy Moss, Wes Welker, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julian Edelman, whatever. I really want to go back and play with KJ Osborne. I thought Pop Douglas looked good in his rookie season. Like, we would have 2019 Tom Brady, but 5 years older. And people were saying this would be a no-brainer if it was possible. Not me. Again, maybe I'm in the minority. Maybe it's just me. How about this? I have a great idea for all of us. You ready? Before we move on to the draft rumors, I want everybody to soak this in, absorb it, appreciate it. How about we just enjoy June 12th? How about we just enjoy celebrating the career of Brady, retiring his number, building a statue, and moving on with our life? How about we start to look towards the future of this franchise instead of going back to what happened during the dynasty, whether it's the docu-series or relitigating Bill Belichick's draft record or talking about what Belichick did or did not do in free agency, the memories of Tom Brady and what he meant for. We just have to move on, folks. Rip the Band-Aid off. It's time to look forward. It's time to build a future. It is not healthy to be stuck in the past. It is not healthy to desire a 47-year-old quarterback. It is not healthy. Stop yearning for the past. Appreciate the past. Love it. Enjoy it. Remember it. Tell your kids and your grandchildren one day. But move on. Move on. It's time for all of us to move on. Tom Brady's not coming back. Bill Belichick is gone. It is time to move forward. That's what we're going to do. Draft rumors coming up in a minute. First, I remind you, the Nick Cattle Show is brought to you by Warzone Paintball and Airsoft. Warzone, 9 maps, 30-plus acres, multiple villages, hilltop forts. They've got paintball, they've got airsoft, they've got kid versions of paintball and airsoft, something for every age group starting at 6+. And if you're worried about what you got to wear, what you got to do, look, just show up with jeans, a pair of good shoes, a long sleeve shirt. Warzone will handle the rest. Low-key, casual. They're in North Kingston, Rhode Island. Give them a call at 401-228-6366. That's 401-228-6366. They're in North Kingston, Rhode Island. Tell them the Nick Cattle Show sent you. Thanks to Warzone, our friends, Warzone Paintball and Airsoft, for sponsoring this program. We'll get to the draft rumors and reports. First, we go to a super chat. You can send your super chat to jump to the front of the line with your comment, your question. Derek Irish, I can see the Pats moving back in the second to have 2 seconds to draft a wide receiver and an offensive tackle. You know, this is something I'm glad that Derek brought this up. I'm really glad. I'm really glad that Derek brought up this idea of moving back. I'm reading about Michael Penix and maybe the Raiders being interested in Penix, and I was thinking about this morning, Derek. It's as if you read my mind, my man. Happy Friday to everybody, by the way, jumping into the program. Like and subscribe. So you look at 34, and we've talked a lot about moving up into the first round with 34. We've talked about sticking and picking at 34, but Derek brings up an interesting option, which is to actually move back from 34, gain maybe an extra second, a third, a future pick. And I think it all depends, obviously, on what is offered to you and how far you've got to drop back. For example, if you've got the Giants, and I want to pull up, so give me a second here. I want to pull up the draft order just to make sure that I have this right. Say I know the Giants moved their second round pick, one of their seconds, for Brian Burns. So now they're a little bit more back than they were, say, a few weeks ago. But if you're the Patriots and you're sitting at 34, and let's say the Raiders want to move up, okay? Let's say the Raiders like Michael Penix, but the Raiders don't want to draft Penix at 13. So the Raiders are sitting there at 34, and they want to move up at 44. Sorry, the Raiders are sitting there at 44, and they want to move up to 34. That's something you can entertain. Now, I would want a lot back for that. I would want a decent amount, relatively speaking. If I'm moving back 10 spots, I would want something significant for that. So it would be the pick swap, 34 to 44, but I'd be looking at 77, which is a third-round pick from the Raiders. I'd be looking at a future second-round pick. I'd be trying to get a 2025 second from them. That's what I would be looking at. But these other teams, unfortunately, the Giants trade kind of hurts you, because in a perfect world, under Derek's scenario, the perfect world would have been the Giants had 39 and 47, and that way you drop from 34 to 39, because let's say the Giants want Penix or Bo Nix, and one of those two guys or both those guys actually slide out of the first round, and the Giants want to move up to 34, and they want one of those quarterbacks. Going from 34 to 39 to pick up, say, a third-round pick and a future pick, that 5-pick drop isn't that big of a deal. 34 to 44 is significant dependent on how the draft unfolds. If you believe that tackles are going to fly off the board from, say, 10 to 25, and a lot of people believe that. A lot of people believe you can see 7, 8, 9 offensive tackles drafted from, 7 or 8 down to 25. If those tackles start flying off the board, you have a decision to make if you're Elliott Wolf. Do you move into the first round to try to grab one of those guys in the 20s, or do you say, we're not going to give up future compensation to draft an offensive tackle in the mid-20s because we don't think there's a huge difference between the guy we can get at, say, 26 that we can get at 44. So maybe you would be open to making that move. dropping down because you say the tackle we get at 44, we still think is worth it because now it's the guy we're getting at 44 plus the extra draft capital. So I do think it's a possibility. I don't think it's outrageous at all to think that Elliott Wolf could move some of these picks. He could move down to get more picks. He could take the later picks and move some of those late picks along with some of the current picks he has in the first 4 rounds to move up through the first 4 rounds. I think everything is on the table. When you're Wolf, you're the Patriots, everything should be on the table. Moving up, moving back. When we talk about second round, third round, fourth round, everything should be there. If somebody is willing to give you an absolute haul for 34, you have to entertain it. It just really depends on your board. If you think you can get Xavier Legette at 44, and that's the guy that you like because he's a big X receiver, makes plays on the football, all of those things. If you think Xavier Legette is A.J. Brown light and you can get him at 44, then you would be more apt to make that move. So I could absolutely see it, Derek. I could see Elliott Wolf making a deal in the second round, third round, move down a few slots, pick up some extra picks, because the one thing about this draft that we have to remember, and again, I appreciate the super chat. It is very much appreciated, Derek, helping out the program one step at a time. You can also help us out by liking and subscribing. The other thing we have to remember about this draft is it's really the first 4 rounds that we're talking about. I mean, once you get to the late 4th round, early 5th, the talent level drops precipitously because of COVID. A lot of these guys, 6th year, and the talent pool is not as deep late. So if you're Elliott Wolf, if you're any team, you're looking to add picks, man. If you can slide down a couple of slots and add a top 125 pick, you do it. Because you want as many swings at that top 125-ish. Once you get beyond that point, once you get to middle of the 4th round, you're dealing with a lot less talent. So I appreciate it, Derek. All right, let's get to these draft notes and rumors, okay? Let's start with Ian Rappaport. Rappaport came out yesterday and said that the Vikings have a private workout set with Jaden Daniels. Now, the Vikings have also had a private workout with Drake May. They have had a private workout with J.J. McCarthy. They have had a private workout, I believe, with Bo Nix. So they've had a private workout with roughly a handful of the top guys. You take Caleb Williams out because we all know he's going to Chicago. The other 5 guys, the Vikings have paid close attention to, and they've had private workouts with. Now, when I saw this, a couple of things, because obviously it ties in with the Patriots. I don't think the Vikings are working out Jaden Daniels and Drake May unless they want to move up. Unless you think that Drake May or J.J. McCarthy is going to fall to 11, which, might happen. I could see McCarthy dropping to 11. I know everybody's talking about him going in top 5, top 3, top 4, but I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's crazy to think that McCarthy could slide down to 10 or 11. But if you're working these guys out privately, if you're working out expected top 3 picks privately, it means that you're at least interested in moving up. You want to move up. You want that as an option. So it makes a lot of sense for Minnesota because Minnesota is looking for a quarterback. Kirk Cousins to Atlanta. Currently, they have Sam Darnold. They don't want Sam Darnold as a starting quarterback. Not with that team. They have a good team. You think Justin Jefferson wants to catch footballs from Sam Darnold? I don't think that's at the top of his wish list. So it makes sense for Minnesota. But why would it make sense for Drake May? Why would it make sense for Daniels? Why would it make sense for McCarthy? Let's think about this. Let's drill down on it because I absolutely believe that it's linked with the Patriots. Not telling you the Patriots are going to make a trade, but this story is linked with the Patriots because Minnesota is working out quarterbacks who are most likely going to go in the top 5, which means Minnesota has it on the table that they want to move up into the top 5. One of the options, one of the teams that's been talked about an awful lot are the Patriots. The Patriots, going back to the Combine, reportedly were approached by Minnesota Minnesota wanted to know what would it take to move to 3. So all of this goes hand in hand. If you're Drake May, why do you work out for the Vikings? If you're Jaden Daniels, why do you work out for Minnesota? I mean, we know that Drake May and Jaden Daniels are going to go in the top 5. We're pretty confident they're going to go in the top 3. So this is how it works. Like, agents know. Agents know where their guys are likely going to go. So if the agent is okaying these quarterbacks to work out for the Vikings, then the agent believes it's at least a possibility that the Vikings can move up to draft their guy. You're not going, you know how like the NBA, they have these workouts and dudes don't work out for teams outside the top 5 because they're like, why would I do that? Caleb Williams, he didn't go to any other place but Chicago. He made one visit. He knows he's going to Chicago. Why is he going to waste his time and go to Washington or New England? It doesn't make sense. Agents and players this time of year, they don't enjoy wasting their time. So if Drake May and Daniels and McCarthy are working out privately for the Vikings, that tells me the agents of those players believe the Vikings can move up. That it is at least a possibility that the Vikings are going to be aggressive, move up, and draft one of those guys. Because you're not just having your guy go work out for those teams for no reason. It has to make sense. Which begs the question, do you think the Patriots are really willing to draft anybody at 3? I don't. The more I think about it, the more weird it would seem that the Patriots are fine with just sitting at 3 and picking anybody. Would it make sense to you that Elliott Wolf is sitting there going, all right, with the 3rd pick, I could take Daniels, May, or McCarthy. Whatever. We'll flip a coin and figure it out. He has to be leaning towards one of those guys. He has to have a favorite, doesn't he? Even if it's by a skosh, even if he likes Daniels just a little bit more than May, or May a little bit more than Daniels. Like, I'm not buying this idea that the Patriots love all top 4 quarterbacks. I'm not buying it. I think shenanigans are happening, which brings us to Adam Schefter. Adam Schefter on his podcast last week, we talked about it, mentioned the idea of Drake May being a Patriot, Daniels going to the Commanders, yada, yada. Yesterday, Schefter doubled down. He said the signs continue to point to Daniels going number 2 to Washington. And by the way, in a couple of minutes, we will have the latest about the Patriots being very interested in a certain offensive tackle. Read that last night. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes after we wrap up this quarterback stuff. So Schefter says the signs continue to point to Daniels going number 2 to Washington. We're standing behind it. So Schefter is doubling down. Daniels to Washington. Matt Miller of ESPN wrote that he spoke to a dozen scouts and executives around the league, and Daniels is the most likely pick at 2. Let's get back to Schefter. He says that would bring us to New England, which I think would have a decision to make as to whether it would take either Drake May or J.J. McCarthy. A lot of people are talking about New England moving out of that spot. I don't know about that. I'm not going to tell you they won't. Of course they would for the right offer, but I think it's going to be challenging. This goes along with all the other reports that we've had, right? That the Patriots, they're not necessarily looking to move out of 3. It'd be very difficult to move out of 3. They love all of these guys. To me, it really reeks of the Patriots being in love with one guy, and if he ain't there, they're trying to get the Godfather offer. That's how I feel right now on this Friday. We're 13 days away from the first round of the draft. And right now, the way I feel is the Patriots have one guy on their list that's above everybody else. And if that guy is there, they're not taking any offer for that guy. If that guy is not there, they're trying to build the value of this pick by throwing out these names, by talking about, oh, well, if somebody came with the bag, as Gerard Mayo said. If you listen to Schefter and he says, there's a lot of people talking about New England moving out of that spot. I don't know about that. I'm not going to tell you they won't. Of course they would for the right offer. That's the golden sentence. When Schefter says that, what he is saying is they want the bag, as Mayo said. And it's going to be really tough to pry that 3rd pick away from them because they love all these quarterbacks. They love all of these quarterbacks. they're super comfortable picking at 3. So if you want 3, you've got to make it worth the Patriots' time. That's the common theme over the last few weeks of all of these people reporting stuff, which again tells me, I believe that, just my thought, it's all subjective, it's my opinion. I believe the Patriots love one of Daniels, May, McCarthy. I don't think they love all 3. They might really like a couple of them and love one guy, but I feel like Elliott Wolf loves one of these 3 quarterbacks. And so he's positioning this team to get the greatest offer possible if that guy's not available. Who is that guy? I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows other than Elliott Wolf. Maybe Alonzo Highsmith. Schefter continued, I think the first 3 teams stay where they are in all probability. And I think it goes in all probability, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, in New England's choice of quarterbacks. If the Pats are willing to move out of number 3, I think it's rather obvious that they don't love all the quarterbacks. Because if you love all the quarterbacks, you're sticking and picking. We're not even having this conversation, are we? You just stick and you pick. So it's obvious. They're trying to drive the value of this pick. They're trying to get the best offer, which tells you if the guy that they love is not there, they are completely open-minded to moving on. You're not completely open-minded to moving on if you love whatever choice you've got, right? Wouldn't make sense. It just wouldn't make sense when we start to read the tea leaves and put these things together. Obvious they don't love every available quarterback because they're still trying to build the value of that pick. All right, let's move to the offensive tackle. Before we do that, don't forget to give us that thumbs up. Support the program. Easiest way you can do that, take a second of your time and like the content as you watch here on YouTube. Subscribe as well. Rate and review. Spotify, Apple Pods. I see those comments over there, and I appreciate every single one of them. Also have a Patreon page. You can check out the description. Go to patreon.com/Nick Cattle, CATTLES, $5 a month, $1.25 a week, releasing the mailbag in just about 30 minutes or so. All right. Word is the Patriots love someone that they might be able to pick at 34. Jordan Reed for ESPN.com, one of their draft pundits, draft analysts, he wrote this yesterday in his Draft Buzz column. If the Pats do go quarterback in the first round, I would keep an eye on BYU offensive tackle Kingsley Suamataia at number 34. Jordan Reed writes, the team has done a lot of homework on him. So Jordan Reed of ESPN says the Patriots have done a ton of work on Kingsley Suamataia, the offensive tackle from BYU. And that if they draft a quarterback at 3, if they go quarterback in the first round, he would not be surprised at all if the Patriots then went and selected Suamataia at 34. Now let's tell you a little bit about Kingsley Suamataia. Dane Brugler of The Athletic released his beast on Wednesday. Here's what Brugler wrote about Suamataia. Overall, he's still very young and lacks refinement in several areas, but his blend of size, mobility, and core power are the foundation of a scheme-diverse NFL starter. He will require a patient coaching staff who can ease his transition to the pro level. Now, Brugler has Suamataia with a second-round grade. As I said yesterday on the show, Brugler has only 20 first-round grades in this year's draft. Yes, there are 32 teams picking in the first round, but Brugler believes that there are only 20 players that are worth a first-round grade in this draft. So he has Suamataia as a second-round graded tackle. He has him number 40 overall. So Suamataia is Brugler's 40th prospect on his big board. Here are a few things about Suamataia. He played left tackle last year at BYU. That's good. We always talk about offensive tackles. We talk about the depth of the tackle spot in this draft. It is very deep. However, the vast majority of guys that have played left tackle, they're likely going to be gone by like pick 25. So if you can get Suamataia at 34, who played left tackle last year at BYU. And for his career, he split pretty much. I think it was 48-52 roughly between left tackle and right tackle. 48%, 52% of the snaps at the collegiate level. So he is somebody who has played a good amount of left tackle, which to me is a top priority for this football team. If you're drafting a tackle, I would love that they get a guy that has legitimate experience playing on the left side. Suamatia fits that bill. Number two, BYU's offense was a wide zone, mid zone scheme. So when we think about Alex Van Pelt, we think about the West Coast offense, whether it's Kubiak, it's Shanahan, McVay. McVay started to move away from the wide zone runs and started running more downhill in duo style after losing to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. But when you think about the West Coast offense from 30,000 feet, it is a wide zone system. Suamatia played in a wide zone and mid zone scheme at BYU. Ipso facto, it would be, hopefully, a pretty clean transition. He would understand the scheme. He would understand what he's getting himself into, which when you're talking about somebody like Suamatia, that's a good thing because, again, he's raw. So the experience with the scheme would help him. He would be ahead of the game because he would understand what he's looking at when Alex Van Pelt throws the playbook in his face. And instead of, being raw with technique and having to learn a system and scheme that you've never had experience with, at least one of those two boxes are checked. Yeah, he's raw and he needs his technique worked on, but at least he understands what we're doing here, and he's played within an offense like this. So you're not completely behind the eight ball. He's unlikely to be ready for week one, if you read Brugler, right? He might not be a guy who starts at left tackle week one. Maybe he starts at left tackle week 6, 7, or 8. Who knows? Maybe he starts at left tackle in 2025 because, again, he's raw. But this will come down to the offensive line coach. And look, the last couple of years, the Patriots have not had good coaching on the O-line. It's been as bad as it gets. Adrian Clem, early on, didn't do great things. Then he got sick. Wasn't a good situation. Had to leave the team. And they were left with pretty much nobody. You go back to 2022. You had the Matt Patricia idea. Then by week one, Patricia couldn't take care of things. So then you had to deal with all sorts of moving around and scrambling. It was a bit of a mess. A bit of a mess. This team has not had solid offensive line coaching for 2 or 3 years. So now it's up to Scott Peters and Robert Kugler, O-line coach, assistant O-line coach, to get this thing straightened out. And one of their top projects, obviously, would be somebody like a Suamatia, because you're drafting a raw talent who needs to be molded. And people have high respected words for Peters and Kugler. So hopefully they pay that and they show that to us. And we have legitimate offensive line coaching here. So you can pick a guy like Suamatia and you can develop him. And hopefully halfway through the year, he's ready to rock. Interestingly enough, he's from a football family, double-digit extended and immediate family that played at the collegiate level. Suamatia is a cousin of the Sewells. So Penei Sewell in Detroit. Suamatia is his cousin. He is very athletic, a la Sewell. Big athletic guy who has the versatility of the right side and left side. Interestingly enough, Suamatia's grandfather played 13 years of professional football, and he was drafted by, you guessed it, the New England Patriots back in 1972. It's kind of an interesting little trivia answer for you. If Suamatia is drafted by the Patriots in less than 2 weeks, actually 2 weeks from tonight in the second round, top of that second round, if Suamatia is the pick, kind of cool. His grandfather was drafted by the Patriots in 72. Kind of a cool link there. If you told me that the Patriots end up with Drake May and Kingsley Suamatia with their first 2 picks, I'd be happy. I would be content with that. I think Sua Matia has potential. Again, he's got the experience on the left side. He has experience with the AVP kind of scheme with the wide zone. Athletic, big, the measurements are there. If you told me it was May and Sua Matia, I'd be happy with that. I don't know how many of you would be happy with that, but I would be happy with that. And then I'd come back and I'd be looking at receiver at 68. Maybe I try to move up from 68 for that receiver. I absolutely entertain the idea of a veteran receiver and trading for that vet wide receiver one after the draft. I'd be looking at all of those things. So if it was Drake May and Sua Matia, I think that is a good couple of first rounds for Elliott Wolf. That's what I think. Let's look at a couple of chats here. Spectadez. Mayo said he only wants players that want to be in New England. Daniels could be one. Yeah, I know there was the Evan Silva thing saying that Daniels didn't want to be in Washington and wanted to be in New England. I take that report with a grain of salt. Daniels has not sat down with the Commanders in Washington for his visit yet. That's going to happen next week. So, what are we doing? Let's wait until he takes his visit to Washington and has that 2-day visit before we start throwing out there that he doesn't want to be in Washington. Jaseni Baldy. May will be a bust in New England. They don't have the weapons or the coaching. Well, the weapons, again, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. If they trade for T. Higgins, if they trade for A.J. Brown, if they trade for Amari Cooper, if they make a trade for a legitimate veteran wide receiver one, then that conversation stops. Currently, they got a bunch of 2 through 5s in the wide receiver room. I think all of us would agree with that. They still need a bona fide number one guy. Let's see if they can pull it off. Let's see if they add one of them. Coaching, I understand there's this narrative that's been thrown out there, and I don't agree with it. It's kind of the low-hanging fruit stuff of like, oh, Alex Van Pelt's never been an OC, so he must absolutely suck. And, Ben McAdoo wasn't a good head coach in New York, so he must absolutely suck. And why did McAdoo not work out in Carolina without bringing up the fact that it was a regime change, which cost McAdoo his job in Carolina? I've gone through the McAdoo stuff. You can check it out. A couple of months ago when he was officially brought in by the Patriots, we went through McAdoo's track record. He's actually been a pretty damn good offensive coordinator. He's been a really good evaluator of quarterback talent. So try to look beyond the greased back hair in his time as head coach with the New York Giants, which, by the way, McAdoo was trying to bench Eli Manning, and he was right. They should have benched Eli Manning. He thought Geno Smith could have been cultivated and developed into a starting quarterback. He ended up being right about that. In hindsight, the Giants did not want to move away from Eli Manning because of the PR and because of his career in New York and the Super Bowl rings and all of that stuff. Now, Alex Van Pelt, he's a big question mark as far as as a play caller. But Alex Van Pelt played the quarterback position in the NFL. Van Pelt has a vast experience, a huge resume of working with quarterbacks, working with different quarterbacks. He worked with 5 different starting quarterbacks last year in Cleveland, and that team still made the playoffs. He's worked with Aaron Rodgers. He's respected by pretty much everybody throughout the game. Doesn't mean he's going to be a great offensive coordinator. We don't know. But I just hate this idea of, people look at names. Let's get out of the echo chamber. Let's add context. Let's actually look at what these guys have done. It's easy to make jokes about Ben McAdoo, but look at what he's actually done in the league. Everybody says, oh, well, Alex Van Pelt's never been an OC. He was an OC in 2009 for the Bills, but think about that situation, folks. The OC title was thrown on him in the last second. I think it was Dick Duran who was the head coach at that point. Go back and look at that offense. Go back and look at the weapons, quote unquote, that Van Pelt had with the Bills that year. Brutal. Wide receiver, brutal. So we've got to look beyond it. We've got to look deeper into things. If you don't, that's fine. I will do it. Just continue to check out the podcast, and we will give you different visions and different ideas as to who these guys are and what they've actually done outside of hardy, har, easy, cheesy jokes. Again, I'm not guaranteeing you they're going to be awesome. They might end up being terrible. What I'm telling you is some of the stuff that's been said out there about these guys is unfair, and frankly, a lot of it is just false. It's misleading. And it's unfortunate that we have literally thousands and thousands and thousands of people who watch and listen to some of these things, and they just take it as the truth. And I get it. You got to work. You got a family. You can't be doing all the research. That's why I try to do as much as I can to give you the full picture. I give you the good. I give you the bad. I give you reasons why Van Pelt might be a good offensive coordinator. I give you reasons why he might not be very good. Ben McAdoo. Again, are you hiring him to be the head coach? You're not. He failed as a head coach. He did not fail as an offensive coordinator. And he has not failed as a quarterback evaluator. That's what he's doing for this football team. He's overlooking the offensive operation and helping out Van Pelt a little bit. But he's really looking at the quarterback position, evaluating that position, helping this team with the draft, and helping Gerard Mayo in certain situations because he's a first-time head coach. Let's not always stick with the easy. Let's not do that. Let's look into it. Guys that have experience with quarterbacks. Guys that have played that position in the NFL. All right. That'll do it on this Friday. Everybody enjoy yourself this weekend. Have a great time. If you're into the cold beverages, hopefully you have some good cold beverages this weekend, some great food, good times. UFC 300 tomorrow night. I'm pumped and jacked for that. Can't wait. Loaded card. I'll go out with the wife today for a couple of craft beers. Have a good time. So enjoy your Friday. Enjoy your weekend. If something big breaks, we'll be all over it. Don't forget to take your time to give us that thumbs up. It takes a second. Give us that thumbs up and subscribe. Rate and review Spotify, Apple Pods. If something again breaks, we'll be on it. If not, we'll catch up with you all on Monday at 11 a.m. on this YouTube channel. Subscribe so you can get notified. Until Monday, thank you. Appreciate all of you. Be safe. Be well. Don't be knuckleheads. Don't get in trouble. It's the Nick Cattle Show.